kind of relates to my books. Kind of. If you've been to one of these before, you know that it kind of relates. We'll do a Q&A after that. We'll do a Q&A for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then after that I have a reading for you from something I'm working on right now. Actually, a book I was writing on the train here. So I always like to read from something that I'm just doing that's coming up sometime.
With regards to Jasnah, obviously she's got, as far as I understand it, a very different viewpoint in relation to stuff to yourself. How did writing a character like that, did it change you in any way?
So how did writing Jasnah change me? She's got a very different viewpoint on religion than myself. It's very interesting. When I create a character, one of the main things I'm looking for is this kind of conflict of opposites. I try to take something of myself and I try to mash it together with something very different from myself. And that is basically the core of how every character starts for me. And I want every character to have something that is kind of forcing me to stretch and understand the world in a different way. And I am religious myself. When I sat down to write Jasnah, it's kind of odd because people ask me who's the most similar to me in the books. It's probably Jasnah, even though one of the things that's like the most defining feature of her is opposite of me. In a lot of other areas, she's very like me. I'm very Slytherin, right? I'm very a good Slytherin. Slytherins get a bad reputation, right? I'm very motivated and driven to make things happen, it's very natural for me to write Jasnah for those reasons. To approach writing someone who is deeply atheist like Jasnah, I'll tell you is a little writing tip. Forums are really handy. If you go on forums and you read, particularly like the gripe threads, where people are just griping to one another about how the world misinterprets them, that's gold for writers, right? But at the same time, I think that everybody examines the world and asks questions, and it's very easy for me to say, well, if I make a different decision and go down this path, this is where I go. And so, I don't know, has been one of the very easiest characters for me to write and to just very naturally voice. Other characters, like for instance, Kolin, in the original write in 2002, Kolin just was horrible. He was the biggest failure in the books. In fact, you can read some of those chapters. We've released them online. And he's like a very Mary Sue, kid who goes off to war, wins a shard blade, saves the world, right? Like that is who he is. And he was so boring. And it was really hard to get him right. And that was part of what took so long to get the book rewritten, because I rewrote it from scratch in like 2009 or 10. Just page one and go. And Jasnah and Dalinar stayed the same. And Kaladin and Shallan changed dramatically. Zeth was the same in both, but Kaladin was the hardest to get right. So, there you are. Other questions? Yeah.
How do you keep track of all these? I know you touched on it in your thing with
yeah. So how do I keep track of all the stories I'm writing, all the worlds, the cosmere, and all of this sort of stuff? I used to think I could do this all in my brain. And then I started running into just how glaring the continuity errors become as you perpetuate them over time. Robert Jordan was able to keep all this in his brain. I don't. I have a wiki, and I have Peter, and I actually have my whole team who help out with this. And when I write a book, I generally am like working on character and theme, right? Character and theme. That's what makes a good story. And I'm writing it out and things like this. And I go to Peter, I'm like, all right, where is the continuity I've broken this time? And then we sit down and try to fix it and make sure it actually fits continuity. But, I worry about that in later drafts. Like, it's interesting. If you read the first draft of a Stormlight book, there's almost no emotion spread. Right, because I'm working on character and theme. I'm not working on whether Oathbringer are appearing at this moment. And I actually have Karen, who's one of my assistants, continuity editor. I say, do a read through the book and add in brackets everywhere you think that a motion spread might go. And when I do my pass where I'm focusing just on language, I'll note those, and I'll decide if I want to add any in and things like this. And so you really do layer it, and then Peter will have all kinds of, Brandon, you're breaking continuity here and here and here. You said in book 1 that Dalinar did this when he was this age, and now that you've written his flashbacks, he's this age, and stuff like that, right? It's a team effort these days, particularly keeping the continuity. So characters I'm pretty good at not forgetting. Theme I'm pretty good at like expressing as I write the book, but all of these details, they get, yeah. You can just go to the fan forums and see the Q&As they've done with me, where I've even forgotten like important things and whatever, and I'm like, oh right, yeah, I changed that character's name. I remember that now. After talking about them the other way for a half hour, stuff like that. All right, so we're going to go. The planet required a person with a special mix of bravery and stupidity. Even at 5 years old, I could see that she deliberately said that when Father could hear. I figured it probably took an extra special combination of bravery and stupidity for him to grin when she said it, and then take me with him next time. Of course, even at 5, I was completely grown up and utterly capable. I was sure of this as I hiked through the rubbled cavern after my father, passing lines and lines of pointed rocks on the ground. What was that funny name they had? A lot of them were broken from the bombings or the meteorite impacts. Things I'd often felt from down below was a rattling of the dishware or the trembling of the light fixtures. I imagined the broken rocks as the broken bodies of my enemies, their bones shattered, their arms reaching futilely toward the sky in a useless gesture of total and utter defeat. I was a very weird little girl. My light came from a small sphere of molten energy, and it glowed with a deep, angry red glow, making the shadows seem to quiver and shake as I ran after Father. He looked back and smiled, and he had the best smile, so confident and sure, like he never worried about what people said about him, never worried that he was weird or he didn't fit in. Of course, why should he? Everyone liked him, like everyone. Even people who hated things like ice cream and playing with swords. Even stupid, whiny little Raj McCaffrey. Even they knew that my father was great.